Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Human Challenge, where we explore all the human challenges in today's world, the challenges of being human, and how we can challenge ourselves to be more human for the greater good. I'm your host, Vanessa Ferlano, and today we are back. You will remember these two from, I think, a couple months ago. I think it was like I was 20 episodes in, maybe 15, and they are back today. We have Leanna Carrier, Canada's first decathlete and ecologist, Timm Dubert, who were here talking about Wings of Survival, their trip that they were taking from Alaska to Patagonia on a bike. By the way, they just completed their cross Canada trip as a warm up. It was like 4,500 kilometers, no big deal. But welcome back. Happy to have you both here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks so much.
Yes, tell me more about this trip. So you just went cross Canada, which is very exciting. Passed Sault Ste. Marie, didn't even stop and say hi. That's fine, no big deal. But tell us all about this trip.
Yeah, so we decided to cycle across Canada and highlight 30 protected areas across Canada and get to see the biodiversity in Canada. So it's just kind of so large and has so many amazing places to visit, and to see it on a bike was super special. We use this as a warm-up event for our larger trip, Wings of Survival. So we thought we would test kind of our vehicle, our nutrition, our physical well-being, psychological well-being. So we also got to partner with the U of A to collect data and kind of test how we did personally, and then also test equipment and vehicles, as I said, and really just explore Canada on a bike, which was very special.
Wow. So U of A is University of Alberta, right?
Yeah.
I think, right. Wow, that's very cool. So you did, that's very interesting. And because you're both plant-based, right? Which is, I think, something that's a little bit maybe newer in the space, or maybe there are not too many athletes that are plant-based, right? So this research is really to support like you're fueling in the case for plant-based nutrition for athletes.
So plant-based athletes haven't really been researched too much. So we got to work with the team at the University of Alberta on our bodies, minds, and what we're eating on a day-to-day basis. And so we got some results back, which were super exciting because we did quite well fueling plant-based. So cycling 150 kilometers a day, fueling ourselves, plant-based. So we were able to keep our body composition, so we didn't lose any muscle mass. Our VO2s were a little low, but not anything crazy. And our metabolic rates kind of recovered after a couple of days. So it was really great feedback, and suggests that our training leading into it was really well done. Our training and diet was really good going in, and then we were able to maintain it throughout. So we're excited to see what the professionals have to say after giving them all the data, and kind of what they come up with from a scientific study point of view.
That's very interesting. So, all right. So you said 150 kilometers a day you guys were going, correct?
Yeah, on average.
On average. So what were you eating, and how did you guys prepare for that? And what were you eating? How were you staying healthy and throughout this entire trip? And how long did it take you if it was 150 kilometers a day?
Depended on the headwind. You can go.
Yeah, it really depended on just the conditions, right? So we had longer days, we had shorter days. 150 is an average. So we had 200-kilometer days. The shortest day we had was just over 80. There was in the prairies, and the winds were so strong. It felt like we're not getting anywhere. So really the conditions, topography. What did we eat? We ate a lot, and lots of things that we normally wouldn't eat as much. So it's a nice opportunity to be snacking all the time. So we had lots of vegan treats, things we hadn't tried before. So different plant-based jerkies and protein cookies. So really nice treats. We finished them too quick, sadly. They were too good. But then it's also, we had 7 Summit Snacks chocolate. So we got to try those different, the new ones, the mint and the coffee ones. And I'm not a coffee drinker, but having a coffee chocolate first thing in the morning is pretty sweet. That's
I agree.
Yeah, right. Lots of treats. I mean, we also had some kind of ordinary things, oatmeal in the morning and pasta at night. But during the day, just lots of snacking.
Yeah, so I think one of the challenges always, and we get as plant-based athletes, is how do you get your protein? And so I was always making sure that we had higher protein content in the morning, at night, because we had a our support vehicle had a trailer and had a little pull-out stove, so we could boil water and make oatmeal and put our Grupo protein powder in there, which was great. And so loaded up with some nuts and some peanut butter. And then we would usually have some sort of bread and jam, hummus, kind of mid-morning. We found some great plant-based soups to eat. Soups are great for athletes because you have the salt and the sodium, additional hydration. The gummy candies. Tim is the best chocolate ambassador. He's always eating. He's always eating a chocolate snack. I love it. And then at dinner, yeah, just loading like tofu or the Big Mountain Foods was really great. Actually, they sent us some stuff, and that was awesome to get that box. So we used their soy-free tofu and their crumble to add just a pasta with beans. So those kind of big meals in the morning, at night were big. And I tried to load up the protein as much as I could in those. And then, yeah, through the day, you kind of get, at first you think it's exciting. I can eat all the chips, chocolate, and gummy candies as you want, but I don't know how many times were you brushing your teeth after every snack? Like
up to 10 times a day.
It was getting to be a bit much towards the end. You almost don't want to eat those things.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's really funny. Yeah, I guess that's very interesting. I appreciate how you would have had to plan that out. And so where did you guys stay? Did you guys camp, or you stayed, said you had like another vehicle that was kind of driving behind you? Is that part of the logistics of all this? Or were you like, did you stay in there? Or did you actually just like stay in hotels, or how did you do all that stuff?
I wish we were staying in hotels. No, we camped.
No way. Really? Like with tents?
Well, Bill, our support driver, was awesome. He had a Jeep and he towed a trailer. And so that had everything we needed. That was our lifeline. Definitely needed that. But he was just played such a huge role in all of this, making sure that campsites were booked because you couldn't book too far out just in case anything happened. So usually the day before he's booking campsites. So I think we stayed at maybe 24 provincial parks. So we stayed at most of them were provincial parks.
Right. Cool.
Private ones. So that was pretty neat as well, I thought. But then Bill would pitch the tent and cook, and we were lucky. Most provincial parks had a shower, so that was awesome. And yeah, and we slept on the ground.
Wow. That is some real commitment. That is real commitment, especially because I know so much of what, the reason that you do this is for, there's the sustainability angle to it, right? And the citizen science. And I remember you guys talking about that the last time that you were on the show. And so you mentioned you stopped at all these different conservation points. And so what were some of the things that were that you learned, or that you were really trying to, accomplish with that perspective, from that perspective?
I'd say we had three goals, three main ones. The first one, we really wanted to do something that's quite ambitious, and crossing Canada seemed to meet that requirement. So really for people to understand, we're not just talking about it and writing, but let's do something, kind of CV building a little bit to showcase we can actually do something that's maybe crazy to most people. And so that's number one. The second one, let's test all our gear, the bicycle, spending 30 days in your saddle, all the clothing we've got, even the dynamics, right? The pace we're going as a duo. How do we, what's a realistic distance for us to go as a team? So lots of testing ground. So it was really valuable from that angle. And the other one was to build partnerships. So we've been talking to different environmental NGO, Birds Canada, Wildlife Conservation Society, and others. Yeah, really trying to get them a little bit more engaged, and that was good, right? We had they did lots of posts for us, and they shared and in a way told our story through their media channels. We visited 3 sites, so there's 7 in total in Canada, they belong to a network called Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network. They call it WISN, and it's a network of sites that spreads across the Americas, and it's focused on protecting migratory birds and shorebirds particularly. So it's a really neat system because it's connecting places, communities, and continents. So it really aligns with our big expedition. So they have 3 sites that we visited: Bay of Fundy, almost the start, right, very early on in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, the final day in the Fraser Estuary, so in BC on the coast. And then something called Chaplin Reed Lakes, which is in Saskatchewan, Saline Lakes. So we featured those places. Again, they were telling our story, so it's been really valuable from a partnership building point of view, and sort of going from here to build upon this trip.
Yeah, and it's so neat to see these places. You kind of hear about them and point them out on a map, but to actually go visit these places, I think is pretty cool and special. And again, like Tim mentioned, we were East Coast, then we had in the prairies, and then on the West Coast, all very important areas to feature. So it was really neat to be right there visiting the important sites, and then Tim providing all the amazing knowledge around them was great.
And did you, I think it's interesting because you mentioned that, it was like East Coast, then it was prairie, then West Coast. What are, I guess, like, I don't know, like, what are the differences, I guess, especially when you think of things like migratory birds and what were the differences between these different sites? And even like for myself as someone who, like I'm definitely very mindful of, my carbon footprint. I'm not, you know what I mean? But like, I'm casual though as well, so like how, like people like myself, what should I know about, migratory birds, especially given, these different sites and how that might impact me and my own mindfulness towards how I treat the planet? Do you know what I mean? Does that question make sense?
I'd say so, yeah. Where's the link, right? Where's the link? The human bird link. And so maybe to take a step back a little bit. So we phrased our story in the context of 30 by 30. So there's a United Nations goal or target of protecting 30% of land and water by 2030. So that's a goal that most countries have committed to. So there's a biodiversity equivalent to the climate, the COP event. So there's an equivalent in the biodiversity space, and there's more recognition that biodiversity is not just super important, but that it's closely tied to the carbon dynamics as well. So the climate space. So that's how we phrased our project. And that's why riding across Canada in 30 days and then featuring 30 protected and key biodiversity areas was really the main sort of incentive for us and the motivation when we realized it's challenging, but it's realistic to do it in 30 days. It just immediately kind of clicked, and we're like, okay, let's use that opportunity of really showcasing 30 by 30 because it is such an important target. And we're using this same idea for the big expedition as well. So our main mission is to really get to those 30% because it's just so essential to protect the natural world, not just for other species, for fellow species, but also for us humans, right? There's a lot of trajectories which are unfortunately heading in the wrong direction. But in a nutshell, having healthy ecosystems is the only way that we as humans can thrive, right? We can have so much technology, but water, oxygen, soil, it's just fundamental to our well-being, those having those healthy systems. So that's what we're using. And then the birds are really cool because they migrate. So for the big expedition, we follow a species called a whimbrel. And don't have a photo here, but it's a shorebird. They've got long legs, they've got a long beak, so they can look for little critters in the mud flats and places they go. So they're breeding in the high Arctic in summer, so the northern hemisphere summer, very rich in insects, amazing feeding ground. It's pretty well sheltered, so it's a relatively safe place for them. And then once they're ready and the young ones have hatched, then they start migrating. And we're just learning to really understand, where do they go? Where do they travel? Where do they stop? So for a long time, we just didn't know. We knew they exist in different places, but we didn't know their routes. And now there's tracking tracking opportunities, and you need something like really little, right, to put
Mhm.
on a tiny bird. It has to be a very little device, but it's now possible, and I think the scientists they just continue to be amazed, not just the distances birds travel, like thousands of kilometers in one go, but also the way, say, individual. So as to give an example, there's whimbrel pairs, so they're breeding in the high Arctic, but when they migrate, they take different routes. So let's say the female
Mhm.
crosses Canada and she drops to the Atlantic coast and then heads somewhere to Brazil, while the male chooses, oh, let's stay on the Pacific side, and goes all the way down to somewhere Chile, and then at
Wait,
some point,
sorry. So they'll mate and then they'll go in different directions. Do they meet up again? But do they meet up again at like in their migration, or they're just like no until they come back to Canada again?
yeah, I,
Or
hard
we
to
don't
say.
know yet. Is this the question? We're not sure yet.
Everything's possible, but there's really been only a few birds that have been tracked, but it's absolutely fascinating. So these
Yeah.
birds are really connecting places across in this case the entire Americas, right? So they're touching upon any place along the shoreline. So it's a neat way to tell a story of resilience and connectivity, and this idea of we can only solve problems if we work at the greater community, right? It's not, there's no borders for those birds. Chip in a bit as well. I'm talking a lot, but yeah, I think your question was a little bit around, I think, the different flyways and different ecosystems, and
Yeah,
so
I guess I guess too, just because like you went from East Coast prairies to West Coast, like what were the I guess differences there, in terms of like the birds and the conservation areas or efforts that you saw, right? Because I imagine those are very different systems, essentially, right? Like they're very different ecosystems, and so what were some of the differences, or some of the maybe priorities of each of those areas that you went to visit from like a conservation perspective, like what were which whoever thought it was the most whoever can answer that question.
well, maybe just breaking it down very simplistically. So you've got the coastlines on each side, Atlantic, Pacific. You've got lots of forested areas. The Bay of Fundy
Mhm.
really stands out. So it's this huge tidal system, right? So it drops by 16 meters. The amount of water that goes out and in and out is absolutely phenomenal. So it's the largest tidal system in the world. And what it does is when the water goes, it just opens up these huge mudflats, which are very, very rich in different little insects, invertebrates. So that's just a haven for migratory birds. So
Hmm.
they come in the millions, literally, on their migrations to feed. So that's a place that absolutely stands out, and it's got all the designations. It's a Ramsar site, which is an international designation for protected wetlands. It's a biosphere reserve. So biosphere reserves usually there's an educational component to it. So it's a man and biosphere reserve. It's a Western site, so what I mentioned earlier, one of those Western Hemisphere shorebird reserve networks, and that's probably just half of them. There's also Canadian protected area status designations as well. So really outstanding ecosystem. And then you've got the prairies, and that's, many people don't know, but it's of increasing interest, not just for biodiversity, but for carbon, because grasslands sequester, so they take a lot of so carbon out of the atmosphere, CO2, basically. They take a lot of carbon, and it's channeled into the soil. So that means unless you're turning over the soil, which is tilling, for example, it's really safely stored in the soil. So it's a great nature-based solution for mitigating the impacts of climate change. But then they're also really, really rich in biodiversity, and they're so important for filtering water and making sure we as humans have enough drinking water. So to me, the prairies are absolutely fascinating and kind of stand out as an entity as well. So coast, Bay of Fundy, the grasslands, and then lots of, Bill used to say, rocks and trees,
Yeah.
like going through Ontario.
Good Chaplin with saltwater, right?
Yeah, you have the salt lakes and the prairies. So so these are really cool too. These are, so Chaplin Lakes and Reed Lake. So let's say there's two or three really big ones, and then there's smaller ones. So these lakes are very high. They have very high salt content. And it's comparable to, say, the Great Salt Lake in Utah, and
Okay.
Mono is another one. And then there's a really big lake in Argentina called, the national park is called Ancenusa. It's called Mar Chiquita. It's huge, maybe 80 kilometers long. I forget, 50 kilometers wide. And these salt lakes are really important for certain species. So phalaropes is one of them. They're very beautiful birds, hard to pronounce, but beautiful birds. So they basically connect the hemispheres based on those salt lakes. Really fascinating. So yeah, I feel that's to me what stands out.
And what about you, Leanna? Anything that stands out for you from the ecology perspective while biking and riding?
Yeah, all of it. All of it. Yeah, for me, it's always such a great learning experience. I kind of liked how you kind of the salt water and the salt lakes. I just never really explored. Being in Edmonton, we always, head to the mountains. We head to the ocean, but yeah, the salt lakes and the grasslands to see were very, very cool. Same with Bay of Fundy. I enjoyed those. Yeah, it was all super special for me. The connection between the birds and the humans kind of always comes down to that birds are one of the best indicators of the health of the environment. So if there's a decline in the bird population or these areas aren't protected, the birds don't have a healthy place to live, or we've seen a decrease in bird population over the years. So it's an indicator that our environment's not doing well. So again, going back to protecting land and water, 30% of it by 2030 being a big goal, but something that we want to help contribute to. That just really kind of drives it home for me on that aspect. And then, yeah, it was interesting also to see we saw a lot of, unfortunately, dead animals on the side of the road, especially in Eastern Canada. We noticed lots of different birds. I mean, so many beautiful birds. And you don't notice them when you're driving, but was it the red-headed woodpecker? There was actually an endangered bird on the side of the road. It's Canada. Yeah, and so, people go out into, birders will go look for that bird, maybe specifically in nature, and here it is on the side of the road, just lying there, and you're just kind of looking and you're like, this isn't how it should be.
Right.
So you want to try to do something to make it better, and for me, I just feel like we can always do better if we know how. And sometimes we just don't know how, or maybe not realizing, eating plant-based can go a long way. But yeah, so for me, that connection, again, just by the health of the environments and yeah, protecting those areas is just so important for bird life and all life, because it comes right back to us.
Right.
See it, look at Jasper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Were you guys back by the point of the wildfire in Jasper? Or were you traveling?
Were we?
I think traveling.
We were traveling. Mm-hmm. We heard about it for sure, and we had a few. We were lucky with the smoke. We had a couple smoky days, but nothing that we were too worried about. And then on the drive back, because we took a more direct route, it was definitely pretty smoky on the back.
Yeah,
and you could see multiple fires.
Yeah. And so what is next for you guys now? So you've done this cross Canada trip. You're like, we are ready. We can definitely go from Alaska to Patagonia next year. No problem. So what is next for you guys now?
Next year. So I just got back from a conference. I was at a Western Hemisphere Shorebird group conference. So that's a group of really cool people from across the Americas. All these names are so long, but so there were people from literally Patagonia to Alaska, and some people we've already met when we spent time in Colombia, for example. So some lots of new faces. Just a cool opportunity to tell our story, like really good timing to tell our Canadian Right story and how it ties into the bigger picture of Wings of Survival. So I made a lot of contacts, because for the big expedition, we really want to support communities along the journey. So that's communities working on environmental protection causes. Again, with this idea, let's get more areas protected. So that's one of the goals, without kind of going into detail, but a really cool opportunity, to make connections. Next steps. I think we've done really good progress over the last year to refine our story and be more succinct, because there's a lot to the project. the ride across Canada has really helped us to understand just how much it takes to do different things while you're out there, which is, so we collected a lot of scientific data, as mentioned, but it all takes time, right? And then the camping time. So we now have a very good understanding of, and even being on the road, it's very stressful in part. It just got really stressful, especially heading into BC. The noise pollution, something we didn't have so much on our radar, was really getting to us. So it's been very helpful to understand how much time do we want to, how many days consecutively spend cycling, and then when do we need a break. The importance of sleep, there was definitely something we didn't do enough. So yeah, just using that experience and those takeaways it's helped us to really understand now what's needed. But the big component is making that possible. And so yeah, looking for partners, for sponsors, people who like this concept, which is quite novel, to really utilize sports as a way to advance nature conservation goals. So it's something that's evolving. So there's the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is the largest conservation umbrella network, so IUCN in short, and they look after the red list for threatened species. So they've just, maybe 2 years ago, they started a Sports for Nature initiative, and they just launched their first website, and they were heavily involved at the Olympics, really trying to establish sustainability foci into organizations, right? A lot of organizations are looking for reducing their footprint, but it's not so easy. It's one thing to have that goal, but so really giving guidance of what can be done. There's Global Sustainable Sport, Eco Athletes, Athlete Media Group, so different organizations coming up at this interface, sports and nature. So yeah, we're hoping that this kind of novel concepts resonates with a lot of people who see value in utilizing this huge platform that sport offers, and just a number of people who are interested or who do sports themselves to really meet the scale of the problem, right? It's just such a dilemma when it comes to biodiversity and climate. It's so rapidly, well, biodiversity is rapidly disappearing and climate is rapidly warming.
Yeah.
So to reverse that, we just need to bring so many people on board. So hopefully sport offers that platform.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And then what about you, Leanna? What's next for you? I mean, for you both, but according to you.
Get back on the bikes. I think it was really great. We didn't get sick of cycling. So definitely being back, and we kind of have to hustle a bit to make this project kind of turn around in the next 10 months. We want to leave in June. So training, learning Spanish. Yes, learning it really well. So taking some Spanish lessons, and then just continuing, to learn, train, see what we can manage for training camps. If we can go back to Colombia for a bit in the winter, is that was really important. Even when we were cycling on some harder routes, so I was thinking, oh, thank goodness we had that experience in Colombia, because my bike handling's a bit better on this. So yeah, just doing that, and just partnering with these organizations and trying to really collaboratively work together and get the messaging across, and more people interested and excited. I think for myself on the athletic side of things, I've had lots of races canceled and moved, and I see it in my clients as well. All of a sudden there's a smoky day. It's like, what do we do? Can we train? Can we not train? So sport and enjoying your activity in the outdoor world, as we all love to do, and has huge psychological benefits and physical benefits to being outdoors, is really, I just feel like it's crunching in, and everyone needs to be working together. So yeah, even if you're an age group athlete, you've probably had a race canceled or changed due to climate reasons.
Right.
So yeah, what's next? Just keep getting the message across, get back on the bikes. A bit of a routine, and try to try to get more people involved with Wings of Survival.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I know that any of us are able to support. So if you'd like to support Leanna and Timm on their journey, you can go to wingsofsurvival.com and there is a GoFundMe link there. And then I know you already have some pretty cool partners, I think, including, I'm not sure, I can't see the logo from where I am, but I think that this is one of your partners and sponsors, correct?
Yeah, Goreware. So they're recycling kits, anything to do with cycling gear. They've been great from day one, just jumping on, just helping us out. So they've been really awesome to work with.
It's amazing. Well, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for other organizations as well to support and to be a part of that mission. And so, yeah, really, really good luck. And I definitely would welcome you both back closer to June next year, and want to see how y'all are feeling. And then definitely, of course, when you're back. How long are you expecting that trip to take?
9 months. Well, we have to get there before the birds start to head back to Alaska. So
okay.
So the time or the excitement is, will we reconnect with the same flock of birds that we see in Alaska in June? Can we reconnect with them 9 months later down in Patagonia? So that's kind of the big mystery, which is also exciting. So we have to get there before they start flying back.
Whoa, no kidding. That's very exciting. That's very exciting. Well, congratulations. And I'm very excited for this research to come out as well. And once again, if anyone's interested in supporting Leanna and Timm, check out wingsofsurvival.com and you can support through their GoFundMe.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.